Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Okay, so today we're going to be taking a look at the updates for March 3rd, March 2nd to March 3rd. Okay, so the first thing I want to take a look at are the top six countries that are growing in terms of infections for the coronavirus. So the first one that we can see is South Korea has amassed 599 new cases since yesterday, followed by Iran with a reported 523, followed by Italy, 342, then France at 61, Spain, and finally Germany. What's important to note are that certain countries are not testing so that they don't get more cases, following the logic that if we don't test, then you don't have a case. And that's why certain places are low, even though it's known that there are a lot more cases in that country. But other countries are reporting correctly, for example, Italy and for sure South Korea. So let's take a look back at the continents and the growth. As we were talking about yesterday, there's that exponential growth that's continuing to rise. And I guess is going to keep rising. I mean, there's no signs of slowing down. It doesn't seem like it's stopping or decreasing in momentum. But we'll take a look at those in particular in a bit. Now let's just zoom in here. What's interesting are the new cases in specific areas. Especially North America are reporting more cases, oceanic countries as well. And South America and Africa are getting their first cases in the past few days. And so it's starting to get more interesting here. We can still see that rise in the past few days. It doesn't seem to be slowing down. South Korea has just, I'm sure it already hit the 5,000 person mark. Europe is heading towards 3,000, Middle East towards 2,000, and the rest are still early in this process. So let's take a look at the new cases. Okay, so still that volatility. Remember when we saw that drop and we expected it to either go up, stabilize, something of that matter? Well, right now it seems to be stable. It increased a bit, but I'm expecting it once again to rise again. I don't think it's done. I think this is just the beginning, honestly. But what is promising is that in Asia there's a drop and in Europe there's a drop. And they seem to be following the same pattern. Europe just seems to be a bit delayed compared to Asia. And remember, this is Asia without China. China's all the way up there. But in terms of new cases, China's doing pretty well. We'll take a look in a bit. In contrast, however, the Middle East seems to be on its exponential rise. However, it could go up here and then decrease, such as Europe and Asia. But then again, we're not sure what exactly will happen in Asia and what will happen in Europe. This is just a 1 day, 2 day drop. It doesn't mean too much. And finally, looking at the last areas, North America seems to be starting its ascend. And so next few days, next week or two, people are going to start realizing they have cases, and I think this number will increase a lot. So that brings us to the percentage increase. So as I mentioned previously, South America and Africa are starting to get their first few patients, starting to notice it. And that's exactly what we see here. We can see that South America had a 300% jump that we saw last time, going from 2 people to 8 people. And then going back down to 0. And in Africa, it seemed to go from 0 all the way up to 200, and previously it was at 100%. These are small number increases because there are very few cases there. And it's comparable to what we saw before. For example, North America, 200% increase, then it went all the way down, and then now it's starting to pick up after that 2-week period in which people start realizing they have the symptoms. So let's start looking at the individual countries. Back to China, still going stable. It's increasing though, a little bit, but it seems as though it's stable. And I hope it stays that way. It's been since around the 25th, so almost 20 days, 15, 20 days in which it's been stabilizing. This brings us to number of new infections. It's also decreasing, and right now it's at 200. Now 200 is pretty large, but compared to what it was previously at 3,000, 4,000, 200 is very trivial. And I hope that the Chinese authorities keep doing the same, and I think they're doing a great job. That brings us to the daily percentage change, and as we expected, it's at an all-time low right now, and this is very good to see. We're only at a 0.25% increase from the previous day. That's great news from China. However, now looking at South Korea, Italy, and Iran, these are some pretty fast growers. The three fastest countries to be growing, I believe. So South Korea has reached 4,335 new cases. That's pretty high. Here we see Italy at 2,036, Iran at 1,501. Increases are pretty steep, but we can't tell if it's decreasing or not, if it's slowing down. As we've seen in the second graph, in Europe and in Asia, in which the majority of cases are from South Korea and Italy, respectively, Italy has that decrease and South Korea has that decrease, which we saw with the continents. I hope this number continues to stay down. But in terms of new infections, it's still above zero and it's still very high. We still have 342 new cases in Italy yesterday alone. So don't take this as a great sign. However, it is a sign that things are slowing down. Iran has now surpassed Italy in terms of new cases per day. I hope the Iranians start taking this more seriously. I heard that the World Health Organization are starting to send medical supplies and staff to Iran with the hopes of reducing the spread. And finally, daily percentage change going back down. I really hope this stays this case. I'm pretty sure this bump here is just a change in terminology, not actual percentage changes in infections. Okay, so that brings us to 53% increase in Iran, 20% increase in Italy, South Korea 16%. So what we can tell is that South Korea is doing the most effort here to contain this thing, trying to slow down the growth as much as possible. From yesterday to today, only a 16% increase compared to Iran's 53% and Italy's 20%. But then again, too early and too far away from zero to be considered stable. Now, the next four big countries, Germany, Spain, UK, and US. These countries are the most interesting to look at because they're all in the beginning stages and things are getting a bit interesting right now. So here we've got Germany still leading the way. What I've heard from Germany is that they're not taking this virus seriously and they're not testing enough, which is why the numbers remain really low, when in fact the numbers should be a lot higher. But we have yet to see. These are the tables that I have access to, and it's what we're going to be looking at. It gives us at least pretty good estimates. So Spain follows suit with 120, and the US and Spain are combating each other on who's going to be first. But it seems that Spain is taking the lead in terms of number of infected people compared to the US. Even though the US has been beating them for a while, now it's back to Spain being on top. Not a good sign from Spain. I expect a lot more cases in Spain as well, especially that everything is remaining open. So contamination or the spread will be a lot quicker. Finally, looking at the United Kingdom, it seems to be growing at the slowest rate, and I think they're taking good precautions there. It seems that they woke up yesterday and they're starting to make some good changes. I hope that stays the same. For new infections, once again, Germany and Spain lead the way, but for the first time, Spain is leading in terms of new infections. It has a higher amount of new infected people compared to Germany. Not a good sign from Spain. I don't know why this is happening and why they're not taking more precautions, but they really should. And I'm not sure. Let's see what happens tomorrow. It's way too early to say that this drop is significant or not. We need to see repeated drops But in contrast, the US's numbers are increasing, and I believe this is due to the fact that people are starting to get more tested in the United States, and so they're starting to discover more that they have this virus. So let's expect in the next 2 weeks for the other countries that new cases will increase, and the US, I believe that their first infected cases have been over 6 weeks ago. So I think this is the current time for most of the symptoms to start showing on people, and that's why their cases will continue to rise. Finally, daily percentage increase. Let's just take a look at the last 2 days. Spain is on top, once again, growing at 42% from yesterday, followed by the United States, followed by Germany, and then followed by the United Kingdom. Now, the UK, I think, is doing a great job. Their numbers are low, and I think they should remain low. Germany, I'm not sure. It's either due to the fact that they're not testing enough or that they're taking good measures. Not sure. It keeps fluctuating between Spain and Germany. So this is a good thing that we have to keep taking an eye out for. Finally, for today, Japan and Kuwait. So Japan has been increasing. However, they've been taking good measures. It does not seem to be increasing too rapidly. And Kuwait seemed to have its first case just 4 days ago, something like that, or sorry, just 7 days ago. So it's still very early for Kuwait, but it's interesting that it follows a similar pattern as the other countries and as Japan. And so we can expect it, if it's not contained right now, to start increasing at that exponential rate that we saw previously. We see that similar pattern right here, bumps and troughs and back to bumps. It's a very fluctuating virus. I think and I hope the Kuwaiti government does a good effort to limit this virus. Seeing as what's happened with the other countries, I hope that's the case. And we'll see that in the next few days. It's important to note that there are many new countries that are just starting to get some cases. And so I'm going to start taking a look at them in the coming days and see how they progress and how they compare to previous countries' as first cases. Finally, for today, we see the number of new infections. There's that bump in Kuwait, new terminology, I believe, or just figuring out that there's new symptoms, new cases. Remember, 1,000% bump from one person is not that big in terms of people. And the daily increase, 24%, but remember, it's still on low numbers. So these are two countries that's important to keep an eye out for. It's been longer in Japan, and we can see that they're doing a great job. I mean, 7% increase from the previous day, and they've had the virus for quite some time. And they're in Asia too, so right next to, very close to China and South Korea. So great news coming out from Japan. Not too much to talk about today. I'll see you guys tomorrow. If there's any countries in particular that you would want me to take a look at or any more statistics that you would want me to look at, please let me know in the comments section below. And if there's something you'd like to debate me on, then once again, comment section below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.